Hope you're having an amazing one, Wrestlezona family, whenever you happen to be tuning in. My name is Lance Reese, your definitive host for the hour. I've been a fan of professional wrestling since I was about 6 years old, begging my parents to buy me action figures ever since I saw videos of Jeff Hardy's Swanton bombing on YouTube. We got a packed episode for you today, as we here on episode 3 of Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. We'll cover what's happening in the world of WWE, All Elite Wrestling, the Indies, and even wrestling here local in the Valley. Stay tuned to hear which WWE superstars were pictured with UFC owner Dana White, upcoming shows here in Arizona, and more, all coming up. We have some exciting segments coming up this hour, such as our 10-bell history, and we also have an exclusive interview with wrestling and cage fighting legend, the UFC Hall of Famer, Dan the Beast Severn. Hopping into the world of WWE, we're wishing the best to Bronson Reed, who is undergoing surgery soon. While no exact date was given in the report, Reed is set to undergo surgery for his broken foot next week in Birmingham, Alabama. This was reported a few weeks ago, so hope that went well. And if you're wondering why Birmingham, several WWE stars have undergone surgery in Birmingham, Alabama in recent years, with SmackDown's Carl Anderson being the latest example last month. This WWE giant has been absent from TV, but not from the public eye. WWE star Omos has not been seen on WWE television since April's Andre the Giant Battle Royal, with his appearances being incredibly sporadic since losing to Seth Rollins at Backlash in May of 2023. Omos was pictured alongside Braun Strowman and Rey Mysterio, as well as the UFC president Dana White at the Power Slap 10 event in Las Vegas, Nevada. Stone Cold Steve Austin and SmackDown star Kevin Owens, amongst others, are set to guest star on a newly announced WWE show. The show is titled WWE's Greatest Moments. The half-hour episodes are hosted by WWE play-by-play legend Michael Cole. Other than Stone Cold and Kevin Owens, Hulk Hogan will be a guest star for Greatest Moments. These stars will share their detailed memories and perspectives on the most remarkable moments in wrestling history. As a fan of wrestling history and trivia myself, I believe this will be a fun show for that sort of information. And I also believe that Michael Cole will be given more chances to show off his unique character and personality on the show. Another WWE show is announced and in production. WWE LFG via WrestleTalk. December 6, 2024. A&E and WWE today announced an expansion of its programming partnership, which will include the debut of WWE LFG, standing for Legends and Future Greats, a new competition series that features in-ring matches along with behind-the-scenes looks at rising talent vying for a coveted WWE contract while being mentored by legends. WWE LFG will offer viewers an inside look at their training process, featuring iconic WWE legends such as Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and weekly regular coaches Undertaker, Booker T, Mickie James, and Bubba Ray Dudley, as they mentor a new generation in weekly matches on their quest to become the next WWE superstars. Executive producers for the show on WWE's side are Paul Levesque, Triple H, Lee Fitting, Ben Hauser, Shawn Michaels, and Jeremy Borash. As for executive producers from A&E, that would be Elaine Fontaine-Bryant and Brad Aberson. Let's get into some All Elite news. Former AEW champion is officially gone from the company. After being removed recently from the AEW roster on their website, Penta El Zero Miedo is now officially removed from AEW. His tag team partner Rey Fenix remains on the roster for AEW. Rey can't depart due to the length of injury time added onto Fenix's contract. Via WrestleTalk, Fenix has posted a new video on social media with some comments saying, "There are many things that are not known, but that also should not be talked about. We must wait. Professionalism first and foremost, folks. We must not be the same as all of those podcasts that go around and spitting out what should not be spit out. Never diminish our work." Well, Rey Fenix, I'm here to say I'm not diminishing your work, and you seem like a man of your word. I'll take it. He also says, "There are things that should always be respected, and many are forgetting everything that wrestling has given to them." Elsewhere in AEW, Tag Team Champions Private Party make it transparent where their home for wrestling is. Via the AEW website, Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, become the AEW World Tag Team Champions by defeating the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, at Fright Night Dynamite at the Wolfstein Center in Cleveland, Ohio. And via WrestleTalk, speaking on the AEW Unrestricted podcast, Private Party spoke proudly about their status as AEW Originals, revealing that they have no intention of departing the company. Zay says, "Honestly, one of the biggest things I like to hang on my shoulder is that we're AEW Originals. We've been here from the very beginning, and I don't plan on ever leaving. Hopefully Tony wants to keep me, but I'm very proud to be an AEW Original. That's one thing that I'm super, super proud of." Quinn says, "Me too." Zay says, "AEW and Tony Khan, it literally changed my life, and I'm super grateful, super gracious, and so thankful. I'm very proud to be an AEW Original." Quinn goes on to state, "I wouldn't say it changed my life more than it gave me a life. Ever since that first match, remember I was just like, I can die happy. Now, this?" AEW crossover match that thought to be canceled is back on with mysterious circumstances. Via WrestleTalk, it was announced several weeks ago that AEW's Young Bucks would be making their return to New Japan Pro Wrestling, challenging Great-O-Khan and Haner for the IWGP Tag Team Championships at the Wrestle Dynasty pay-per-view on January 5th. The article goes on to read, "However, these plans were thrown into doubt when Haner suffered a knee injury during the World Tag League tournament. The match was confirmed to be canceled shortly thereafter, with O'Khan and Haner vacating their titles as a result. In a new announcement several days later, however, it has now been confirmed that Young Bucks' New Japan Pro Wrestling return match will take place after all, only now with Haner being replaced by a mystery partner for O'Khan. Mysteries aside, and putting a bow on our AEW segment and wrapping up that gift, how is everyone's holiday season going? I'm definitely feeling quite festive this year, and I plan on attending some more matches after the new year." I'm Lance Reese, and let's get into some local and indie pro wrestling news. Fan favorite show Dark Side of the Ring is set to return with their 6th season in 2025. It kicks off March 25th of the new year. Last season ended May of 2024, and although details on episode material for the 6th season is bleak, it has been noted that WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry stated he has worked with the creators of the show on an episode focused on Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. More confirmed matches for Ring of Honor's Final Battle 2024 event. The show will take place at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York on December 20th, a home for a lot of Ring of Honor events since their early days. The ROH World Champion Chris Jericho will defend his title against challenger Matt Cardona. ROH World Tag Team Championships on the line as champions, the Sons of Texas, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, take on the challengers Vincent and Dutch of the Righteous in a Texas bull rope match. The champion, Red Velvet, defends her title against Layla Hirsch in a singles match for the ROH Women's World Television Championship. Arizona Wrestling Federation announces new Dawn event for 2025. The show will take place January 18th, 2025 at Bull Shooters in Phoenix, Arizona. It will feature the likes of the Brian Kendrick, Chris Adonis, the former Chris Masters in WWE, alongside homegrown talent such as AWF Heavyweight Champion Chubby Depp and AWF Women's Champion J-Rod. I would love to attend this show. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the new year and going to more pro wrestling events. IZW Monster 2025, featuring Frankie Kazarian versus Navajo Warrior and more. The event will also take place at the Bull Shooters venue in Phoenix. Monster 2025 is set to take place February 22nd of that year. At IZW's annual Monster event, TNA's Frankie Kazarian will take on the Navajo Warrior. Also on the card and set to appear is Pete the Heat, Parada the Pirate, Gino Rivera, and IZW Heavyweight Champion Main Event Evan Daniels. Phoenix Championship Wrestling returns to the Jefferson Community Center January 11th, 2025. From the PCW website, see big-time matches like Devin Reno versus Jimmy House, GFY versus the Mega Test Warriors, Zamaya in action, and see John Wolfgang defend the PCW AZ Heavyweight Championship. I'm Lance Reese with Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. Now let's get into our 10-bell history. 10-bell history. 1. Classic tag team and real-life brothers Rick and Scott Steiner both have college degrees in education. 2. Big Daddy, the biggest draw in the history of British wrestling, was so passionate about karaoke he used his wrestling connections to import a top-of-the-line karaoke machine straight from Japan. 3. Jim Cornette helped to create the Headbangers gimmick after he went to a Marilyn Manson concert. 4. Speaking of old corny, Jim Cornette's dad helped found and ran the National Spelling Bee. 5. Gorilla Monsoon's first gimmick was as an opera singer. 6. The birth of Austin 316 and the NWO happened within 2 weeks of each other. 7. Speaking of, Austin 316 also happened on the same day Super Mario 64 came out, June 23rd, 1996. 8. Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, was born the same year that Terry Funk started wrestling. 9. Jeff Hardy is 2 years younger than Bobby Roode, but he made his Raw debut 24 years before Bobby Roode did. 10. Triple H wrestled 5 gimmick matches in one night. He competed in a chokeslam match versus Big Show, an Inferno match versus Kane, a handicap casket match versus Viscera and Mideon, a boiler room brawl versus Mankind, and a Brahma Bull rope match versus The Rock, all on the same episode of SmackDown in 1999. I'm Lance Reese with Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. Before we kick things off into our interview, I'd just like to reflect back on the sudden but wonderful start of the show. It really means a lot to me, the support that has been shown for Wrestlezona, and to those who have made it through the show until the interview, thank you. Without further ado, let's hop into our exclusive interview with Dan Severn here on Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I don't know if we started or
yeah, we've been rolling, but there
okay,
I can cut out bits and pieces if
no, I mean it's like
shall.
Everything I'm saying, I wouldn't say it if I didn't felt otherwise.
Yeah. Well, that should bring me into my first question actually, because I was gonna say you are the Beast, Dan Severn, and I'd say about everything you say and do is real. Could you?
Would you like to, again? Excuse me for interrupting. Would you like to know? I did not make up my ring name, the Beast.
It was given.
It was given to me by the legendary NFL Hall of Famer Jim Brown. And again, most young people won't know who Jim Brown is because he's gone, but he was a football Hall of Famer. Probably one of the, if not the most toughest running back ever. He did not run around people; he ran over people, and he was also one of the play-by-play commentators for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And even when he first met me, he goes, Danny goes, I didn't know you were a fighter because all these other guys are showing up with tank tops, muscle shirts, they got tattoos, piercings, all this kind of stuff. I show up wearing a sports jacket, a tie, wearing glasses. I could see up close, but for distance I need glasses. I'd already worked for 2 different universities, Arizona State University, Michigan State, and it was pretty much common that when they show up in some type of sports jacket, tie, that type of attire, and that's why I showed up. So everybody thought I was somebody's manager, and then I'm with Al Snow, professional wrestler Al Snow, with the mannequin's head. He is they all thought he was a fighter. I was his manager, and then when they made the announcement, all fighters please come up to the head table. And then all of a sudden, Al Snow sitting out in the crowd, and I'm up at the head table. People are like, well, who's this guy, you know? And even Jim Brown, he said when he saw me climb up into that cage, he said he just could not believe the transformation as you saw me coming down the walkway. And then the climb up into that cage, he says, you literally morphed in front of my eyes, which, I mean, I am very capable of that. And it's not just during that, but throughout my entire athletic career, starting off with amateur wrestling, you know, when I walked out there, this is my piece of real estate, and you just trespassed. I'm going to do everything in my power to make you wish you had never stepped foot on my piece of real estate.
That's I like that you mentioned that. There's a lot of components, I'd say, that make up you. There's of course, you did wrestling at ASU you did Greco-Roman style.
Well, again, Arizona State is a collegiate wrestling program, but the reason I actually signed with Arizona State, I met a gentleman back in 1976 that big contributor for Arizona State. And they developed the Sunkist program. I said that I'm looking for a program that has the best of both worlds. Inside the United States, we are the only country. We are the only country that does folk style wrestling. The rest of the world competes in freestyle or Greco-Roman. Those are the two styles that are competed at the World Championships. It's the same two techniques that are competed at the Olympic Games. If you were a collegiate, high school wrestler and you went to college, you've been doing nothing but folk style. And then finally, by the time you graduate, you're 21, 22, right around that cusp of a time frame. And now your only opportunities to represent the United States is in freestyle or Greco-Roman. So for the sheer fact that the United States might pick up a gold medal here or there and get a few more people's place, that speaks volumes because they're starting at that 20, 21 years of age of finally doing something on a full-time basis, whereas all these other foreign countries have been doing it since age 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So big deficit that I think should be able to change it over. We should be doing freestyle Greco.
And you wrestled for ASU.
Yep.
In the late 70s and 80s.
Yep, from 76. Yep, on. I wrestled. I redshirted 1 year, so I was involved with the with the program for a solid decade, because once I finished my collegiate career, I was then assistant wrestling coach under Bobby Douglas at the time, and continued wrestling. Even though I was coaching, I was making a whopping, I think, $3,000. So I had to work a full-time job on top of that. So.
Yeah. So explain to me the different feelings between lacing your boots up for Greco-Roman match compared to, I guess, the world of pro wrestling. What would be the difference there?
Oh no, well, I mean, you and I mean, Lance, hopefully I'm not going to be bursting anybody's bubble out there, and they're not going to be crying on their Hulk Hogan dolls or the Rock paraphernalia. But you and I, Lance, already know ahead of time who's going to win.
Yeah.
And typically we will know roughly at what time frame by what type of a finish, because WWE is a well-oiled machine, and they run these weekly shows that are promoting their monthly pay-per-views, and they have to have 7, 8 or more storylines going, because in the event that someone gets hurt, which is a high scenario that someone will get hurt, because you cannot, as I tell people, you cannot defy gravity. If you pick somebody up and you body slam them, I mean, most professional wrestlers, they refer to it as taking a bump.
Yeah.
They don't even understand that they are doing martial arts break falling. They want to land on as much body mass as they possibly can to help dissipate the impact. And again, above all, you're trying to always tuck your chin to your chest so that the back of your head is not taking as much trauma in the process. And all rings are not created equally. When you're on the beginning phases on that independent scene, there are some really crappy rings that you will be in that there is no type of padding underneath it. It's nothing but 2 by 12s on the outside, 2 by 10s on the inside, spaced about 16 to 20 inches apart, and they've got 1 to 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood. And someone's picking you up and slamming you down. Screws come loose, start to come on up, and you might get poked by a screw as someone is body slamming you. So there's a lot that goes into trying to achieve the rank of becoming a professional wrestler. I typically advise a lot of young people that are moving into that sector, have a real job going along with it, and let that professional wrestling career be a weekend type of thing that you are doing, and you'll be a whole lot better off.
Kind of as a, like you said, weekend thing, more like this is my hobby, more not my professional career, which brings in all the money, but
Yeah, what you got to look at, though, I mean, it's in professional wrestling. I'm just hitting with a couple hard questions right now. Is there a 401k program that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Exactly. Are there any health benefits?
Probably not.
No. It's one of the sad parts about professional wrestling is health writers will underwrite a tanker full of oil going through enemy territory before they will underwrite a professional wrestler. Not even Lloyd's of London, one of the most riskiest insurance companies, will no longer do that because several wrestlers have worked the system where they claim to have had an injury, milk it out for the next year or two to where they're off hunting, fishing, doing all their fun things to do, and once their health benefits run out, it's like, Lord have mercy, I have seen the light and I am healed. Yeah, no. That's why I said it's just kind of a shame that you've had a few that have wrecked it for the many. But also, I mean, I'm going off into different tangents. Why should you be the main event guy and not me? So there is jealousy.
Politics.
Because jealousy, politics, income. Those that are openers aren't paid the same thing as the main eventers. I mean, that's where again the pay-per-view. Everyone knows certain names that are what the industry would. You got the Hulk Hogan's, you've got the Rock that's out there, you've had the Undertaker, and I'm not going to do as good with some of the more modern people who are at the top because I don't watch it as much as I once did. So there's a level of jealousy, and knowing that when you work with each other, and all of a sudden they throw you out of the ring, and they're about to do a moonsault splash on you. What if you just came up a little short on trying to help them, stop them? Because literally you are their buffer between you and the floor, I should say. So when you see you guys doing these incredible maneuvers and then they come up a little short, it makes me wonder at times what's legit and what's not, because that's it's a very dirty, cutthroat industry. But at the same token, like I said, if you were going to go into business, I would simply tell you, take 1 or 2 semesters of professional wrestling 101 and 102, and it will prepare you for the absolute worst in human beings.
Wow, that's wise.
Well, again, only because I've gone through it.
You've lived through it, yeah. And that was, the pro wrestling stuff was in the tail end of the 90s for you, right? Right before...
1992 was when I first turned there was a new rule that came down to the United States Olympic Committee. Otherwise, I've been an amateur all that time. I had different professional groups had reached out to me beforehand, but I did not want to lose my amateur competition status. So, but as of 1992, the Olympic Committee came up with a new rule. I'm thinking, okay, now I can have my cake and eat it too. So I jumped into the wacky world of professional wrestling.
Did you have to put any holds on anyone who would give you it's fake stigma when transitioning to pro wrestling?
You mean that tried to stiff me or something like that?
Yeah, like try to tell you that it's not real or something like that. Would you?
Well, no. I again, the people that brought me to it in the first place, a gentleman that was a amateur wrestler / professional wrestler. His name was Dennis Kasprowitz. Dennis is long gone now, but Dennis was an amateur wrestler and was the president of the Michigan Wrestling Club at the time. So it was involved in freestyle Greco, and I was a coach. And I would travel around the state, simply just working on amateur wrestling clinics for freestyle and Greco. And then we'd get together. But then when club business was done, I'm like, going, okay, Denny, now talk to me. Because he was Dennis Kasprowitz as a part of the Michigan Wrestling Club, but he was known as Denny Cass when he was the professional wrestler. That's what he went. That was his moniker at the time. So we would talk, and then he finally he tried to discourage me because of some of the things that I just told you about. Because of there's just got to look at it as a side job and not your main event job for yourself. So, I mean, he discouraged me, but when that dude really came on down, I said, take me to this place that you're talking about. And that's when he took me over to Lima, Ohio, and introduced me to Al Snow. And the Body Slammers gym is what he had at that time.
Yeah, 1992 is when you started. And you were in the NWA for some time?
Yes, I'm trying to think. I don't even know how that even came about. I'll just simply say that because I used my real name and I used my real amateur wrestling credentials. I mean, literally, I used to have, I used to travel with a briefcase. I had resumes because I got involved with it for, I'll say, almost all the wrong reasons. I mean, I moved and relocated to Coldwater, Michigan for an actual job. And it was at a manufacturing plant. I worked in quality control. I knew how to set up assembly lines, things of that nature, just being good with my hands. And the gentleman who hired me there, was part of a different company, and he saw the good things I did over there. So when he went on to Coldwater, he had this upstart company, and now he's offering me all the things that a young married man with the starting of a family wanted to hear. And I'm like, well, how long do I have to think about this? And basically 2 weeks. He says the company will be up and running in 2 weeks. So literally in a 2-week time frame, I bought a home, I sold a home. I went to work, and at the end of the first week, I did not have a job. And this was back in 1992. The United States was in a recession at the time. A lot of people out of work. I could not find the gentleman that had hired me. He was missing in action. I went to an attorney friend of mine and spoke to him to see what I could do. And he's like, the at-will clause had basically just come in not that much earlier to where companies could let you go at will with no reason whatsoever. He said, Dan, you don't have a leg to stand on. He says, I suggest that you sign up for unemployment. I go, how? I've never done this in my life. But that's when I aggressively went after professional wrestling a great deal. The home that I bought was all based upon my salary and stuff like that. I was aggressively going after trying to build classes up, get that going. So, and just whatever odd jobs I could get in between. And that's literally when I saw a flyer about an event called Tough Man. And again, you're really young. I don't know if you ever heard of Tough Man before. Tough Man, I don't think it even exists anymore. But it was an event by the name of Art Dorr out of Bay City, Michigan. How about Butterbean? Have you ever heard of that name?
Yeah.
Butterbean? Okay, well, Butterbean came from the outdoor promotion of Tough Man because Bean was he was built like a 4x4, but he could throw a punch and just knock out most of his opponents.
Yeah.
But I saw this flyer for a Tough Man contest that was taking place up in Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Michigan, and first prize was $1,000. I needed $1,000, so I basically told my better half, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 days, and I'll be back. And I didn't tell her where I went off to. Again, social medias were not abundant like they are today. And it was very comical because these guys were all were wearing like athletic shorts or boxing shorts, had boxing shoes, and had done some kind of thing. I had never put on a pair of boxing gloves at that point in time. And I mean, my hair is jet black, mustache is jet black. I probably look like John L. Sullivan because I didn't know how to hold my hands properly. And there's only 2 weight classes, 190 pounds and under, and then anything over. And I was in that category of anything over. So my first opponent is some guy that's probably, around that 270, 280, somewhere in that ballpark, is my first opponent. But I had already gotten to the arena earlier, and I saw the ring that they're setting up. They didn't have a boxing ring. They had a professional wrestling ring. I'd already started my training in professional wrestling, so I knew the dynamics of the makeup of this ring, to where the most solid areas our post, the four corners. And if you could get in between and hit those ropes, it's like a big old rubber band. And I'm thinking, okay, I at least understand this aspects. Well, in my first tough man bout, this big old hoss comes out. He starts swinging at me with haymakers. I'm thinking, holy moly, I need to close the distance real quick. So I basically just charge in, hit him with both gloves into like his chest and body. I've got him backpedaling, and we're about to hit the center of those ropes. And so as we hit the center of the ropes, I slide my hands off to where I actually lock them around the body. And as the ropes come right back into me, I launch him into what is known as a belly-to-belly. Launch him through the air. He hits face first. I mean, it tears his face on up pretty good. I mean, basically knocks the juice right out of him. And the crowd simply explodes. And even Art Door, who he looked like Wolfman Jack. He had this big mane of white hair, big white beard. He had this black tuxedo outfit. I mean, very eloquent the way he looked. He jumps right up. He's got the microphone. I look down at him. He looks up at me. He goes, well, throw him again. And I'm thinking, this had nothing to do with boxing whatsoever. Yeah. It was like, but it fell underneath the genre of tough man. And the crowd they fell in love with me because I was like this barbaric wild man that did not know how to do. I mean, as I'm throwing punches, I'm throwing like a haymaker one way, and as I swing back, I'm striking them with the back of my fist. I'm throwing hammer strikes. I'm doing all these things that don't have any rhyme or reason in boxing. And again, I'm getting underhooks. I'm doing hip tosses, and I'm throwing more people in the process. And I just became a fan favorite over the course of 2 days. And as I tell people, I think 5 minutes later, I walked out of there with $1,000 and newfound skills.
Do you have a match or a fight you're most proud of?
Okay, now are we talking professional wrestling or are we talking about mixed special? Because again,
you could go wherever you want with that question. Okay. I know that's a bit loaded, but
yeah, no. Well, again, I know I've been asked that before, but it was always aimed with mixed martial arts, cage fighting type stuff. My simple reply was, not that I have one match, but on 2 different occasions where I set 2 different records for like the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And UFC 4 was my very first appearance in there. But by UFC number 5, I've in a 20-year career that I did, I have only done 2 training camps. Once for 32 days, once for 35. Lance, you find another human being that walks this planet that can make that claim. And I tell people, put it out on the internet. Use all your social media device to say that they were secretly training with Dan Severn here. They're secretly. I didn't. I ran practices in my training facility. But if there were even numbers, all I was a barking sergeant, keeping things going, the coach. But if there was odd numbers, I'm still the barking coach, but I'm also participating. And anytime that someone would have to take a rest up like that, I would jump in their place because I just simply do that. Cardiovascular is the basic foundation of athletics. If you don't have the cardio, you might have all the knowledge, but if you don't have the cardiovascular to see a match through or see a game through, it's not going to work there for you. So again, I'll say that I've used what I call common sense, but common sense is not all that common anymore.
Mm-hmm. So I was watching an interview you did with James Romero of Wrestling Shoot Interviews, where you talked a bit about a certain incident that happened on Monday Night Raw with Owen Hart involving a pile driver. And not to bring up any bad memories, but you've said many times yourself that in your professional wrestling career, you've been hurt more than in your cage fighting career.
Correct.
That stands true? Okay.
Yeah, that still stands true, yes.
Do you still approach that environment of pro wrestling any differently to cage fighting in that regard?
Well, I mean, professional is entirely different. I mean, you still have to take on that persona. because you are that character, whether it's the baby face good guy or if it's the heel, the bad guy. And then, then there might be management might say that, Lance, it's time to make the change. You've been running along as a baby face, and now we're going to have you do a little heel turn and for a little while, and then you're going to see the light, and we'll bring you back to baby. I mean, there's some people can pull off certain aspects, and some people can't. But or if you've been working as a single, and now they want to put you into a tag team. So there's a lot of magical formulas that they can do. But sometimes, I'll say, sometimes some of these storylines are so in-depth that I'm thinking, you've got to make this a lot easier so that people can understand some of the storylines. I like some really the really most basic type of thing so that if there's kids in the arena, I was always big because I did run shows myself back in Coldwater and a few other places. And my whole aspect was I wanted to make certain that I appealed to the kids.
Yeah.
So big thing was no profanity.
Yeah.
It's just not doing that kind of stuff, and no type of nudity that would be taking place, and it was a lot of fun, and it was as long as I knew that I could please a child, I'm going to be pleasing that adult, because there's a lot of times there's a father, son, or father with a couple of their children that are there because dad was a fan of it, and now they want to share that moment with their children. So I always wanted to play towards the kids and towards the family unit to know that this is a PG type of a program, and we don't have to worry about it.
That makes a lot of sense to my next question, because the era you landed in with WWF at the time, they tried giving you a crazy gimmick. What was up with the Ministry of Darkness?
It was again, this kind of let your listenership understand here is that WWF/WWE was getting beat up in the ratings, and by WCW, which they no longer exist anymore. The whole premise that WWE kind of countered with was this. They came up with this. It was a wild time period to be involved in, where they were pushing the threshold in a lot of different ways. It was actually a really fun time to be a part of professional wrestling. You could almost do and or say just about anything and get away with it. You had Vince Russo. He was writing a lot of the stuff that pushed that definitely pushed some different limits. But for your question, I was known as the Beast from my cage fighting career. So it was just I wore basically what looked like the same type of an outfit. I had black trunks and I had wrestling shoes. But they kind of morphed it to be an actual professional wrestling boots, so that just a little bit better. Even just to talk about that for 1 second, there was only a couple of people that ever wore amateur wrestling shoes in the octagon, and what I was told, I don't know what the others were told, but I was simply told that, well, Dan, if you wear wrestling shoes, you are not allowed to kick or stomp an individual. And I think myself, okay, that's fine. I don't kick or stomp to begin with. But again, I understand what I'm about to compete on. I know I saw at the surface of what this cage was is like a wrestling mat, and I knew that if there's any kind of water, sweat, whatever on this mat, it could make it slippery to try to get some type of a shot off. I'm not going to win any matches with my hands. I suck with my hands. So, but you as a striker, no matter what kind of striker you are, whether you be the striker with your hands, elbows, legs, knees, you need some space in order to work your magic on me. And I just simply knew that the most, as long as I could clinch you, whether I clinched you out in the open, or whether I jammed you up against the cage wall, or I took you down, as long as I could get one of those three things done, I neutralized 90+% of your arsenal, and my arsenal is just beginning at that point. I learned how to strike from close quarter combatives. My three most reliable workout partners was a heavy bag, a throwing dummy, and I had a wall-mounted takedown machine that is utilized almost every amateur wrestling room of any like magnitude of success has one of these. It used to be known as the Carl Adams machine because it was Carl Adams, who was the head coach at Boston University, who actually designed it in the first place. But I used that machine in ways that it was never meant to be, because I'd have on headgear, I'd have on boxing gloves, and I'm sitting there striking, kicking, clubbing, and then shooting in. And I broke the first machine, and basically there was a warranty. I thought that, okay, they'll replace it. So I sent it back. And then when I broke the second machine, they're like, who is this guy? Then when they found out, I think
that they were the beast.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true now, but they said that I was told that they mounted up and and said that Dan B. Severn broke this.
So I was mentioning earlier with the WWE stuff, you were given a lot to work with, but I think one of the most interesting aspects of it was your theme you had. What did you think about the fighter theme and what you were given to work with there?
Well, the theme music, I really liked it. Actually, one of the first times that I truly heard it, because I had no input as to what they were going to do. They just did it for me. So I thought it was actually done very well. And as I'm hearing them hit the music, I'm thinking, because the first time I hear it, I'm thinking, hey, that's not half bad. It's kind of like, that kind of portrays me pretty much, because I am kind of like a no-frills type of an individual, which I would have had probably a much greater professional wrestling career had I been born a lot earlier in time. I was like that throwback from days gone by that, you go out there and do, a 45-minute to a 1-hour Broadway type of match and did actual wrestling holds. Lots of professional wrestlers, they'll just do like European uppercuts, they'll do chops, they'll do big old body slams and stuff like that. But that's not me. I'm not gonna. Again, I should say I'm not the guy that's gonna climb up on the top rope and pull off moonsaults and things of that nature either. So, I was an amateur wrestler, so I said, the marquee says professional wrestling. I'm going to give you a little bit of wrestling. That's what I'm going to do. So that's where I would mix a little bit of some Greco matches or some freestyle matches, or just some freestyle techniques, Greco techniques, and some just good old-fashioned amateur wrestling techniques.
Did pro wrestling influence UFC or mainstream MMA culture in your opinion?
I think, yes. It had to have, because why would there be the biggest sports merger in sports history just took place just a couple years ago?
TKO.
Yes, where you have the UFC and the WWE now under the same umbrella. But it just shows you the stock that comes into it. But it's any of the cage fighters. There is, I think they found out that persona came out. So it's you look at some of these cage fighters, they've done well in the movie industry, just like look how many different professional wrestlers have moved into the movie industry. I mean, The Rock, probably one of the most dominant forces there of being involved with acting and that. And, The Undertaker, John Cena, Batista, and the list goes on. There's just so many guys that have been involved in the industry because they know the same things that they did as a professional wrestler, of body language, of facial expressions, and audio are the same, basically 3 keys that come out in acting.
As we wrap up our 3rd episode of Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse, I'm Lance Reese with my very special guest, Dan the Beast Severn, and I have one more question to ask of you, but I need to pull out my phone to show you something. I want to show you a photo I found of you that was taken February of 2020. Can you tell me who these 2 gentlemen are? This is me.
Okay. Well, again, I'm looking at you as well. Again, you've got facial hair. You've matured more.
Oh yeah.
You got looks like a different pair of glasses on as well.
So this was
where was this?
This was at a local IZW gig you attended, where you were the cornerman for fellow ASU wrestler Roman Roselle.
Oh yes, Roman. Yeah.
And that brings me to our final question. You've been in and competed in matches all over the world and cornered for individuals of all the likes. What's the reward like going to a local gig like IZW cornering for Roselle compared to like throwing chairs at Tarzan Goto at a Japanese show?
Well, there was a lot more people at the Tarzan Goto show.
Yeah.
Okay, but no. I mean, it's I've known Roman for a number of years there as well. I mean, he's from military background, so again, I'm a big proponent of militaries, our armed services.
Yeah,
they don't get enough plugs for doing the job that most people do not wish to do. I mean, it's from a coaching perspective, I almost look at that. A lot of people I work with as I'm almost a surrogate father to them. So if they pull off something really good, stuff like that, it's like going, I get that little beaming of happiness. Yeah, I'm happy for them in that same type of way. So it's because I've been a coach for so many decades now that I still receive a token email here or there or something on various social medias of like, you won't remember me there, coach, but I was in your wrestling camp in Owasso, Michigan back in 1982 or something like that. And I'm making, wow, this person now, what are they doing now? But they say exactly where I was at the time period, and then I always like, well, hey Lance, great to hear from you. What are you up to nowadays? How old are you now? I mean, just because there's so many people that I've been on the mats with or in a ring with that I've lost count. But that almost on this kind of like this final note, Jim Brown came up with the ring name The Beast. And the Beast has a lot of negative connotations. So I came up with an acronym that I can live with. So the word "the" stands for Dan Severn. I'm a teacher, humanitarian, and I'm an educator. And my message to young people is Beast. To believe in yourself, to educate yourself, to adjust your everyday attitude, to study hard, and then to teach others. Because you can't take it with you. I even say that about people, they want to hoard away money and stuff like that. If you want to leave it to your kids and stuff like that, that's fine. Make sure you have proper wills and living trust, stuff like that, all put into place. But, try to teach other people how to be good human beings. And that's one of the things that I take a great deal of pride of. I'll shake your hand before, and I'll shake your hand after. No hard feelings for what's going to happen in between the two shakes.
That sounds great. Well, I'll shake your hand, Dan. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Lance, it's been my pleasure. And like I said, that any of the listeners there, if they want to find out more, if they want to get in contact with me, go to my website at dansevern.com. It's not up and running here yet, but it will be shortly. I mean, there's still a website up there, but you can't really interact with me yet. So, again, thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up episode 3 of Wrestlezona on 88.7 The Pulse. I'm Lance Reese, and until next time...